Good evening and welcome to the third and final C.A.U.S.E Elliot Lake Candidates Night for the 2022 municipal elections. Phones off. My name is Elliot and I am the administrator of the C.A.U.S.E Facebook group. I am just a facilitator of a greater movement of minds within our community. I'm very pleased to see such a great turnout this evening. And I would very much like to thank the members of C.A.U.S.E, the candidates, and our local media, and everyone spreading the word of C.A.U.S.E and these important events. The future of C.A.U.S.E in our community is yet to be determined, but for now, it is our #1 goal to bring together the community in a safe and organized format to discuss the upcoming election, educate the public on particular matters of municipal government and policy, and to allow our future candidates to see in a concentrated form that the citizens of this community have viable input and valuable voices to be heard. Our goal is to create a harmony between the people and those who govern them. This is what our community needs, this is what our community wants, and this is the best recipe for a prosperous and productive future for our city. Few quick housekeeping rules. Before we begin, you are asked to remain in your seat. If you do need to use the washroom or to leave the building at all, please use the exit closest to you with as little disruption as possible. And if you can wait until the speakers are done and we have a transition, do so then. If you do leave to go out into the parking lot, we ask that there is no smoking in the parking lot. And because we are trying to have as little close contact as possible, we do ask that at the end of the evening, if you are having conversations, you'd like to speak with the candidates, please move it outside. So without further ado, let us begin with our candidates' introductions. Each candidate will have 3 minutes to speak to you this evening regarding their background, platform objectives, and visions for Elliot Lake's future. Following the introduction period, the candidates will be asked the top questions which have been submitted and voted on by members through the C.A.U.S.E Facebook group. Each candidate will have 1 minute to respond, or they may choose to pass. Completely random. Our first council candidate is Tammy Van Roon.
Bring it down to yourself.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
My name is Tammy Van Roon. In 1998, my husband and I chose to raise our 2 sons here to be close to families. I am self-employed as a real estate broker and actively involved in our community, having volunteered my time over the years for various groups and organizations, including C.A.U.S.E, the Legion, the 696 Air Cadet Squadron, and more. My proven leadership and experience as a former city councillor here in Elliot Lake will be extremely beneficial to the new council, which will see at least 3 new members. In 2017, the New Home Licensing Act was passed in the province of Ontario. All builders and vendors of new homes must hold a valid license with the Home Construction Regulation Authority and the Home Enrolled with Terrian. The city's current building permit application form does not address licensing. I believe it should. Currently, the average sale price of a home in Elliot Lake is $215,000 and dropping. Developers are seeking to make a profit. Elliot Lake's resale market is below the cost of new custom-built or production homes. I think it's wonderful that this council has been able to attract a developer who purchased 19 lots in our community, but I am concerned that they were given a 4-year covenant. With the downturn in the market and the increase to the interest rate, along with a looming recession, I'm not confident that this development will occur. There have been a number of lots in our community that have been purchased and developed by private individuals. These new builds occurred successfully and brought in additional tax revenue quickly. In my opinion, being more flexible with size restrictions on covenants to allow for tiny homes and by providing larger lots, we can attract more individuals who wish to build their own home. This has proven successful with both the waterfront development and with some urban properties as well. With more inventory on resale homes now available at price points much less than a new build, we will need to be creative in attracting developers who can be successful, which should be our ultimate goal, success. Over the last 2 years, many private residential landlords have sold their investments, leaving a shortage on available rental property. There are new investors purchasing investment property in Elliot Lake. However, the rents they require to cover expenses will be higher than the rents we were seeing previously. It's my hope that in working together with ADSAB and our MPP, we can increase the number of privately owned residential units that are available under the rent subsidy program. If I am elected, I will loyally serve the city and the needs of its people with honesty and integrity. If you would like to learn more or to reach out to me, my website is Jamie Van Roon. Thank you.
Thank you, Tammy. Our next candidate is Charlie Flintoff.
Good evening, everyone. First off, I would like to thank Olivia and her team for all their hard work and dedication. Organizing community events like these are much appreciated. Elliot Lake needs residential expansion. It seems like we have a lot of developer interest with little to no action being taken. For example, Iqbal Estates presented a letter of intent to council back in January of this year. They were hoping to build multi-residential buildings on 80 Dieppe Avenue and the All Nations Terrace area. 6 months later, there has been no communication to the public about what happened to this offer. Complete radio silence. For over a year, the city has been considering development on the eastern end of Eston Lake. I have no idea what happened to the status of this now. I find myself to get excited about this stuff and hopeful for so many opportunities, for them only to be dropped with zero communication about what transpired. We need to follow up on these investor leads. Just because the investor doesn't get back to the city right away, we need to continuously check with them until we get an official no or not interested. Our new council needs to give proper direction on this matter. The real estate market, as we can see from watching the news, is constantly in flux. When we get presented with a good opportunity, we need to capitalize on it. These types of situations don't happen every day. There is still a worldwide shortage of construction material due to the effects that COVID-19 has had on the supply chain. That in turn increases the cost of all this material. The longer we wait for residential development to get started, less people will be able to afford the homes that they want. When the opportunity comes, the city needs to use every resource available to try and close the deal. I picked up the phone and called Retirement Living this week to get an update on the Spine Road development. They confirmed that the project is still underway, but that there are some ongoing challenges. Hopefully things get started by April 2023. In the past 6 months, 104 residential homes have been sold here in Elliot Lake. This proves there is demand and need. The tiny home idea is interesting. However, despite their size, tiny homes must comply with health and safety requirements. They also must have necessary servicing, such as water and sewage. We just can't pop them up. We need the appropriate land, a willing investor, and to pass multiple Ontario building codes to make anything happen. To sum all of this up, there is a lot of work ahead of us, but I'm in it for the long run, and I hope I can be there to help move it along. October 24th, vote Charles Flintoff. Thank you.
Thank you, Charlie. Our next candidate is Bruce Ibbotson.
Hello, everyone. The growth of our community is predicated on residential expansion. It is one piece of very complex puzzle as we're a growing community. Residential expansion will grow our tax base, which is a key piece to our growth. But of course, a huge problem if you want and need affordable housing. So a plan is needed. My thoughts are there are three distinct areas of residential expansion that can be developed for them. Affordable housing, middle income housing, and professional housing. Social housing in our area is the responsibility of Women District Services Min Board, or ADSAB. I worked for ADSAB for almost 10 years as their facility manager, and besides the day-to-day operations, I was also the project manager for 2 affordable builds in the Women District, one in Duberville and one in Echo Bay, Ontario. I've recently observed that ADSAB has completed 2 affordable housing builds, one in Wawa, and one in Richard Lyman. Excuse me. The City of Elliot has 4 members on the ADSAB board, so with this leverage and our growing need, I believe we can strongly advocate for the next affordable housing bill here in Elliot Lake. If elected, I will lobby to be on that board. Middle income housing also needs to be addressed. First, I would look at areas where infilling of new service lots could occur. This infilling would be predicated on services being available at the lot line, water and sewer, Essen Drive North, Essen Drive South, Hergott Avenue are possible locations, and I'm sure you can think of many more. Planned subdivisions should also be considered. Again, there are many locations where streets could be extended to create new housing lots. Infilling in a planned subdivision may have been developed by the city to attract builders. The cost of this development could be taken from reserves and recouped over time from the sale of the lots. I see opportunities like the former public school property on Roman Avenue, formerly the Adult Education Center. The school could be turned into housing units while the remainder of the property could be for lot development. I've seen old schools buildings turned into housing units in Sault Ste. Marie with great success. Building on the efforts of the current council, we should be partnering with our First Nation neighbors on a scaled-back version of Phase 2 water lot development. This would increase our tax base while providing locations for professionals. These potential housing bills are concepts. First, with a step to develop a scope of work and business to case for each. If they pass the test, then lot acquisition design can begin. The federal government this summer announced a major investment of over $2 billion to create 17,000 homes for families across Ontario. There are 3 funding models, each attractive, but one I found most interesting was the 5-year rent-to-own under the Affordable Housing Innovation Plan. This appears to be very appealing for those on fixed incomes. The timing to move forward is now. The housing is a key component of Elliot Lake's growth, but we must take the steps to make it attractive to investors and builders alike. I will work towards this goal. And Sandy has a couple handouts she's going to pass around, and you could just take a look at them and pass them on. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bruce.
It's easy to move on, yeah, that's all I'm sure.
All right. Our next candidate is Chris Patry.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you all for coming out. Thank you, Olivia, for putting this on. It's great.
It's not loud enough. Dayton, can we get the volume up, please?
I greatly appreciate that. I'm usually told that I got a big mouth.
You guys work so hard, we need to hear you.
Are we good? Are we better? Are we better now?
Yeah.
It's like I'm on a cell phone. Can you hear me?
Speak up.
Can you hear me now? No. Thank you very much. Again, thank you, Olivia, for putting this on. It's great to be here again tonight. I'm born and raised here in Elliot Lake. Moved back here. My children were very little. They were moved back to put them through school. We wanted to invest here, so we have sold other business ventures, and we opened Clover Building Inc. 2003, we opened Elliot Lake Trading Post. We still operate that successful business today here in the community. We are very tied and committed to this municipality. It's very imperative that we try and get growth. Sad part is we've missed a very large opportunity. When COVID hit, the building boom was here. We could have and should have been able to get the lots available to builders instead of selling them in lump sums and putting, as Van Roon said, 4-year covenants. We should have actually tightened our covenants, sold these properties, increased our tax base. The only way that we're gonna survive as a municipality is to increase our growth. We need that growth income so that we don't just keep increasing your taxation on an individual basis. You have to realize that our costs are gonna go up every year. We're no different as a municipality than each one of you people are that is a member of this municipality. Your costs go up every year, so we need to be able to find that money. The only way we're gonna find that money is new builds. So in order to do that, I think that the municipality has to go back to our official plan, and we were just at a council meeting the other day discussing the potential of tiny homes, and I'll get into that in a minute. The aspect is our official plan is designed, our municipality is designed for 30,000 people. You go to the end of Eston South, you go in behind Caldwell, you go to the end of Lawrence, you go to the end of Spine, all the infrastructure is already there. The actual official plan is already at City Hall. We don't even really need plans of subdivision, they're already there. We can move forward and start building in this municipality as soon as we have the builders available. I know for a fact over the last couple of years, I've had builders come to me and ask me for my help, where they wanted to build homes and we don't have anything ready for them to build. That's where we have to fix things. We need to be able to be ready so that people, when they want to come, if a developer comes and wants to build a subdivision, we've got to be able to do this subdivision. Which again takes us to the tiny homes. There was a developer that we had a presentation about from our planning department, or our planning company out of Sudbury, that said, yes, you can do it, and this is the rules, and this is what you have to do. We as a municipality cannot do that. We cannot use your tax dollars to build homes, but we can work with developers and do everything within our power so that we can help them to start to do these builds. I agree that yes, tiny homes, if a developer wants to build them, let's build them. If somebody wants to stay at homes, let's create the proper lots and let's allow it to happen. We already have the tools. All we need is a council that's gonna sit, work together, have the conversations, have the discussions, and get it done properly and get it done now. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Our next candidate is Gary Kirk.
Hi, I'm Gary Kirk, and thank you very much for coming out on a blustery night. Growth. We need growth. We have to broaden the tax base. We need the money coming in so that the money going out is in checks and balances. Growth will save us from higher and higher tax increases and all the cycle that we're aware of. All right, so I break down housing as a necessary, absolutely needed. New builds, I mean, we have the foundational stuff in place. We have what was left to us by the mine closures. We've got a hospital, we've got schools and all that sort of thing. But we have to stop playing around with the housing issue. I've been a proponent for tiny homes, and I'm very, very happy to see the other candidates speaking about tiny homes. I've suggested the lots across from the shelter on Mississauga, and I have suggested the lot as you enter the Senator Road Dog Park. I know the churches certainly have an interest in these tiny homes as well. So, you're not going to get a developer to come in and develop tiny homes. It needs to be led by the city, not financed by the city. 60 to 70% of tiny home builds as affordable housing can get paid for by the province and the federal government on available grants. And they're expanding those grants daily. So it needs to be city-led. I don't advocate for the city to be a landlord. I advocate for the city to lead and to knock down the impediments that get in the way. We have people living in the forests. We have people in need. I'm not declaring a free range for people with bad habits to come in and occupy these things. What I'm talking about are people that want to do better and need a hand up. That's a community-based thing. So I would also look for the city to lead, but I would want involvement from the churches and the service clubs and interested community people to get involved. Make this a community project rather than dictated by a developer or anything like that. There's not enough meat on that bone for a developer to come in, build them and sell them. And the people that need them couldn't afford to buy them anyway. They live check to check. Now, we move into stop selling properties to people that are going to do nothing with them. We have, the Roman school was spoken about. You could turn that thing into an assisted living home before it falls down. Well, we have somebody who owns it that isn't restricted, isn't forced to bring it to play. And we have these buildings all over town where these people own them and do nothing with them. Use bylaw, use building codes, encourage them to do the builds or to move along. I'm out of time. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Gary. Our next candidate is Geraldine Robinson.
Thank you. I'm Geraldine Robinson. Thank you for the chance to speak tonight. My platform of open government, supporting business and attracting tourism and improving the infrastructure stays the same. I am the chair of a committee called the Elliot Lake Warming Center. We are trying to get a place for people who are homeless to have a safe, warm place to sleep. We are in the midst of getting our ducks in a row. But at the last meeting, I quoted the financial statement saying that the C.A.U.S.E department budget is $432,000. The clerk is $400,000. That is $800,000 for administration in a town of 11,000, a city of 11,000. I think that's too high. Also, when I was looking at the financial statement, I saw that the mayor and councillors have $6,000 for a medical plan. Do all part-time employees of the city get $6,000 for a medical plan? I think not. If I was elected, I would decline this medical plan. I would also take a 40% cut in the mayor's salary. This is my way of streamlining. I would streamline the expenses of City Hall, and at the last meeting of the council, disturbing news came about a subject with Chris Patry. I think we should be advised of this so we know who the people are that were breaking the law and not vote them in again. If elected, I would put the needs and the concerns of Elliot Lake residents first. I ask for your vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Geraldine. Our next candidate is Norman Mann.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, to our moderator and fellow candidates. Elliot, sorry. Better?
Get closer, some of the people.
Sound good to me.
Is that okay? Okay.
You're down to a minute.
It's orange tonight too, I'm confused with the colors. Elliot Lake is my home, past, present, and future. My name is Norman Mann, and I'm not only asking for your support again this October, but I'm also asking for your vote for re-election as a councillor for the city of Elliot Lake. It's been my honor and privilege to have served the residents of the city for the last 12 years. I don't take your support for granted, and I'm not taking it for granted now. Elliot Lake has always been a great community, which is why each and every one of us is here. Is it perfect? No, it's not, but no community is. Our roads need repair, our facilities are aging, and our business community is not what it used to be. But there has been progress. We are on the right path. As I've said before, when you run for office, you can never really make any promises. Why? Because you only have one vote. You're part of a team, and no one individual on that team can ultimately make decisions on what happens in the community. Outside my city responsibilities, I'm just Norm. I have an honors degree in business administration from the University of Windsor, and I've been employed by Huron Lodge for the past 29 years and am currently their CEO. I'm Carol's son, Victoria's husband, a father, and a new grandfather of 2. My reason for running remains the same as it always has. I want Elliot Lake to remain a real option for our children to return to after their post-secondary educations, raise their own families, and even buy a home. Tonight's focus, future residential expansion. Is the city open for building? The simple answer is yes. Over the past 2 years, approximately 24 vacant lots owned by the municipality have been sold to developers to build new housing. There is interest and demand in Elliot Lake. We actually currently have approximately 85 lots available on Oslo, Moody, Roke, and Young Crescent. Yet these roads are yet to be built, but plans of subdivisions are already available and ready to go. The challenge, like many developments in other communities, this land is unserviced. Builders must commit to service these properties in order to make them available to prospective home buyers. The real question is, do the economics make sense to build? Can a builder make a profit and still sell their product? This is ultimately up to the private sector, but we believe the answer is yes. My promise to you this evening is once again, I promise to listen to the residents of Elliot Lake and make well-informed decisions in your best interests. Thank you very much. On October 24th, vote for Norman Mann.
Thank you, Norman. Our next candidate is Margaret Pollard.
I'm always so surprised when my name gets called. Yes, I am Margaret Pollard, and on October 24th, I am asking for your vote. I've been here a little over 4 years. I moved here just before the last election. My daughter and son-in-law moved up here to find a better work-life balance, and I followed my grandkids, and lo and behold, I did find for myself a better work-life balance, and that's what Elliot Lake has to offer. It is available, it is here. I do have a vested interest in the future of Elliot Lake. I'm a small business owner here. I do run an Airbnb. And again, I'm the grandmother of the 3 young children that are growing up here. And I want to see them thrive just as much as any other family that is choosing to call Elliot Lake their home. I believe Elliot Lake is a community for all. I'd like to see us as a community working towards the best possible future together. Again, yes, we do need housing, we need affordable housing, we need middle-class housing, and it would be wonderful to see estate housing. I know we do have some wonderful luxury properties already out on Dunlop Lake, Stanrock Road, so there is a need for it. There are people that will come and will build those, and I am counting on your vote, and I know on October 24th, please vote for me. I know I'm going to vote for myself.
Thank you, Margaret. Our next candidate is Luke Morissette.
Just a reminder to the timekeeper, I still have 38 seconds from the last meeting. Did you know to build a house, it costs between $120 to $250 per square foot?
Yes.
If we average this to 185 per square feet, it costs about $370,000 to build a 2,000 square foot home in Canada. Now, the average cost to build an apartment complex is $398 per square foot. That means a complex of 100 average size units would cost roughly $37 million to construct. How many years will it take the builder to recoup their money back after construction of any of these units? The recoup cost would take roughly 52 years to recoup, not counting the daily maintenance. This is based on the $600 a month low housing people want to pay. The cost of tiny homes of 500 square feet is between $100,000 to $125,000. That's not counting labor, which is an extra $25,000. If these units are rented at $500 a month, it would take 17 years for a builder to recoup their money. First, we need to find serious investors that are willing to build housing in Elliot Lake. No more COVID excuse. We need to have another building similar to Fort Pine Road built in Elliot Lake. That building is currently owned by the Elliot Lake Nonprofit Housing, which is owned by Bruin Lodge. We need to push ATSAP to build more housing similar to 70 and 80 Hillside North. This is geared to income for seniors. These buildings, these 3 buildings, has a waiting list to enter. Last few years, the city sold lots to 2 different developers. We know one that has a hard time finishing renovations to their Upper Plaza location. There should be no more extension on getting the renovations done. Instead of buying new lots, they should have taken the money and finished the work they started. As you can see, building is expensive. When it comes to council and building housing, they will have to make wise decisions. Where can they build? Maybe 151 Ontario could be an option. Would the empty bush area across from the Canadian Tire Mall would be Canadian Tire or the mall site suitable for small seniorship complex? Maybe Eston North, the location would have to be somewhere where seniors would feel comfortable in living. So it is a hard decision for everybody, and I ask for your vote on the 24th, and I will try to make that proper decision for everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, Luke. Our next candidate is Rick Bull.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Rick Bull. I have lived in Valley Lake since 1967. I've worked for the City of Valley Lake for 40 years in the arenas, parks, and the public works departments. I have very good knowledge of the workings of these departments and how the city operates. I have done and managed budgets, and particularly in the parks area. Part of our responsibilities were the maintenance of many facilities, indoor and out. I feel that being here so long, I could contribute to the city with my knowledge of the workings of the city and being in touch with the many citizens. To me, council should be a forum for good debate and everyone have respect for each other. We need a new arts center, and that includes a venue for concerts and plays and a building for the arts club, a new arena, and now finally, a hopeful solution for the pool to be repaired. No more Band-Aids. A walk-in clinic is something we can work towards, and we've seen progress with the Elliot Lake Health Team and the nurse practitioners being available during the week. We need to return to summer day camp, encourage students to return to work, and to even return to live and work and raise families here. Roads and infrastructure upgrades, some money is in the reserves, and council should start scheduling repairs sooner. The presentation last night at council by Linda Finn, The Stream of Dreams, was an excellent initiative that can promote more tourism. For residential expansion to happen, we need people to want to move and live here. Whether they be professionals, retirees, or young working families, they will have wants and needs to make Elliot Lake their home. We have to offer the city as having the right amenities such as an arts center, an arena, a pool, and indoor and outdoor recreational facilities. Residential expansion could consist of waterfront lots, estate lots, subdivisions, and affordable housing, which has to be about 10% of the housing construction. Our official planning act sets out the conditions that are required. The only thing I see in The Planning Act is there's no time limits, and we've seen no construction. People have had properties for years, and there's nothing happening. As with the Dunlop Lake waterfront development, there should be reasonable timelines to begin and finish construction. Do I think we need expansion? Yes. We need as many people as possible to make Elliot Lake home and make it prosper. On October 24th, vote for Rick Cole.
Thank you, Rick. And our final introduction is Tom Turner.
I was making up for forgetting Tom last time. Yes, you got
Evening, everyone. My name is Tom Turner, and I'm running for election to council, and I'm asking for your vote.
Speak up a bit.
Speak up, Tom. I've had the honor to serve on council for the past 4 years, and ask that you entrust in me the duty to serve another term. I believe that if you want to know someone and how they're going to act in the future, you should look at how they've acted in the past. I'm not afraid to be scrutinized under those terms. I believe I've acted honorably and have worked hard as a councillor and as a member of numerous committees. I've spent time necessary to review, research, and read all material available to me. And I think that I contributed fully and voted faithfully in all matters. You could count on me to do so in the future. I'm dependable, dedicated, determined, and I'm willing to speak my mind, but also willing to change it if there's a better idea. I'm a team player and I encourage cooperation, cohesiveness, and consideration towards colleagues. Strongly believe in the concept of we. We, the community. All of us as contributors to the security of the community, the well-being, and the future of the community. On topic about the future of our community, we have some tough decisions to make in the future. It deals with housing, deals with art center, recreation, and how we avoid massive tax increases, how we work together. Sounds simple to say, it's not so easy to do.
That's it.
The money's, examples of decisions that should be made in the coming year I've just listed. We need a council that's interested in the we of our community, and not just pandering for votes, but thinking of the future. The next 5 years are going to be critical. Our population is changing, the demographic is moving. The average age is coming down. People retiring at our hospitals are being replaced by people in their 20s, early 30s. They want to raise families. We have to do something to secure their needs for them, okay? That's part of the job of the municipality. We also have to serve our seniors and our young people. So it is a complex pattern that we have to resolve. I'm willing to help make that happen. I believe that we can grow the community, but we have to take action to create attraction. That was 3 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. And my apologies, I should not be in charge of deciding who's speaking. Helen LaFive.
Hi, everybody. I'm Helen LaFive, the forgotten one.
Not for long.
Thank you, everybody, for coming, and especially Liv and her team for organizing this and doing such a great job. So tonight I'd like to share some of my thoughts on considerations for future residential expansion. Elliot Lake needs to grow, and we need to attract people in a younger generation. Retirement living has done well for us and to stay alive as a community, but it's now time to focus on getting younger people into town. To do that, we need more jobs and we need more housing. We need to identify on our city map locations where housing of all types, including waterfront homes, affordable homes, tiny homes, apartment buildings, and senior living can be built. This is not Toronto. We're not maxed out on the amount of land that we have. There's a lot of land out there. We need to identify what needs to be done and get it done. I have an example of a builder who came here a few years ago and had discussions with our city officials to build a subdivision of at least 25 homes. Can you imagine the amount of money that would have brought into our community? They would have bought all of their supplies locally, would have created jobs, we probably would have attracted a lot of younger families from Southern Ontario to move here, have a job, and afford a home. We lost out on some big opportunities. They ran into a lot of roadblocks when they came up with this idea. So we need to remove those roadblocks now. We need to prepare for those kinds of opportunities when they come, that we are ready for them. We need to identify what we want at each location and work aggressively and move to get it done. It will take time to build, but we need to start now. There's been a lot of talks about tiny homes, and my quick search over the weekend shows that there's a lot of them for sale in Ontario. So let's find a builder who's willing to invest. And having worked in the mortgage industry, I can tell you there's a lot of investors out there. The old mall location, in my mind, would be a perfect location for a high-rise building with retail shopping on the main floor with extra large sidewalks. That would be great for outdoor patios in the summer. We could walk along Main Street, stop, enjoy a glass of wine, and really enjoy our downtown core. We have surplus land now that could be used for apartment buildings. We can build waterfront homes on what I'm thinking is called Fox Drive, the extension of Spine Road, that would attract doctors and high income earners who want a home on the lake and will take advantage of being in town. We need to get work together, remove the roadblocks, and get it done. I have spoken in past debates about my experience. I believe my experience would be an asset for this next council. I will be posting a presentation on several group pages after this meeting that will give a lot more ideas on what my thinking is. I am running for City Council because I believe we can grow. On October 24th, please vote for Helen LaFai.
Thank you, Helen. We will now begin our question period. These are the top questions submitted and voted on by the members of the C.A.U.S.E Facebook page. Members were encouraged to submit the top question they wish to hear answered by the candidates. From these questions, the membership was polled and they voted upon the top questions they also wish to be answered. A reminder to candidates, you have 1 minute to answer. Once your name is called, you may choose to pass by simply raising your hand when called upon if you don't answer. Just a reminder, when the card goes up, you still have 20 seconds. Don't run away. When you hear the bell, time is up. I'm not picking who's going this time. Anne Boy is in charge, so candidates, just keep your ears open.
And candidates, I realize when I brought this over for you, you're not all musicians. I brought it over because it goes up and down really easy, so you don't have to look way down at your notes. This is for you.
You should have been told that at the start.
I better wait until everybody suffered first.
So, our first question. When faced with budget shortfalls, do you have any solutions beyond raising taxes or cutting services? And if so, what are they?
Grab your papers, Lev. The first name is Mike Thomas, and you have his answer.
Mike Thomas sends his regrets as he is under the weather. Question number 1. His answer is, keeping with the theme of consideration for future residential expansion, it is a given that any council will be mindful of the balance between incoming revenue and discretionary spending. If you were to go further than what happened in the last budget in terms of reductions, the city will be hard-pressed to cut more than it has. This will be an immediate challenge of the incoming council. As I have stated before, we need to implement an across-the-board cost-benefit analysis of contracted services versus doing as much as possible on our own. I also believe that a consensus will result in an across-the-board review of internal services to achieve cost savings where possible. If we were to invest in critical infrastructure to enable new development, there is a fixed cost to doing this. The funds have to come from somewhere. Water, sewer, and roads are involved in any expansion outside of what has already been allocated for development. Anyone who tells you that taxes aren't going to go up with increased interest rates isn't being realistic.
Luck of the draw, you're still on. Dan Marchesella.
Alright, just a second, I have to find it. Okay. Dan also sends his regrets as unforeseen circumstances have come up. Dan's answer. Many comments have been made about how to continue services without raising taxes. Unfortunately, no. It took 5 years to catch up to the proper rate of taxes after the last tax cut in 2009. The city cannot buy used equipment or vehicles to save a buck. There is a life cycle that needs to be followed. We have run through finding any efficiencies, including some staff wearing more than one hat, and we are still short-staffed. That hurts services. Pens and paper clips have been counted. The only way forward is to invest in new infrastructure now for continued growth, and as new houses, buildings, and commercial properties are developed, we will then enjoy the new taxable builds and a time with no need to raise the taxes. But that investment must come first.
Gary Kirk.
That's in taxes, right? Just gotta happen. There has to be a way for the city to work more neatly. I mean, doing things the way I do things, look at the way I look at things. I identified two areas, one which was the purchase of a grader, the other was the purchase of a truck. Doing it a different way, entering the auction system and everything, allowing the city to use that facility would have saved us $200,000. The truck had 8,000 kilometers on it, it was still under warranty, and it met all of our requirements. Why wouldn't we have saved $50,000 or $55,000 by buying that? As far as getting more for our money, on the asset sales that we do, if you use, again, the auction system, there are multiple people. I knew thousands of people plugged into these auctions. You show them a city lot or a lakefront lot or whatever, you know what it's like in auction. The prices go up. We need to broaden who we are marketing to. Running an ad in the Standard, by all means. But you know what? If somebody's got 8,000 people glued into an online auction, why don't we do that? Thank you.
Rick Bull. Run. Yeah, I'll let someone else go. Geraldine Robinson.
I agree with the other candidates that expansion is necessary to avoid the taxes and housing increase also. But to reduce spending, I would like to start by examining expenses in City Hall. The fact that the councillors get a health plan at $6,000 a year, if we cancel that, would save us $42,000. Why? There are other expenses. Why do we need 3 bylaw officers? That is more money. I think we could find a lot of savings in City Hall, and I would like to try. Thank you.
You can do it.
I believe to To avoid a budget surplus or budget deficit, the best way is to not have one. You should plan ahead, have a 5-year plan where you take into account all what you're going to spend and what you plan on bringing in. I think the only time the city ever had a layoff, a major layoff, was probably in '97 when 7 employees were laid off, but they were only laid off for a few months, and that was due to lack of snow. If anybody remembers that, winter, there was no snow, so there was lack of work. Could have used them somewhere else, in my opinion, as a president at the time, to do something else, but layoffs were the chosen path. So I think if we work diligently to maintain a budget, work towards that, and keep everything as we plan for a 5-year plan, then I don't think we should ever have to worry about a budget shortfall. Thank you.
Bruce Ibbotson.
Before I start, Margaret, I already voted for myself.
Good for you.
How nice and close, Bruce.
Good budgeting is almost an art form. Budget overruns may be justified depending upon the situation. As an example, if the Public Works Department budgets for 5 water main breaks based on the historical average of 3 to 4 breaks per year, and do an extremely cold winter, water main breaks end up being, say, at 7, then that's a justifiable overrun. Record snowfalls would be also another example of a justifiable overrun. Legitimate, and I stress legitimate, overruns would be taken out of working reserves. That's what working reserves are for. If a department comes to council with a request, my first words will be, was it in the budget? If not, my next words will be, what are you taking out of your budget to cover off this request? The expectation will be that there's an approved budget in place that must be maintained. Department finds the money. Working reserve will not be used for this in this case. This is very common in capital works projects. Increased product costs occur, so the scope of work is modified to meet the budget. Some municipalities have developed what is called a tax relief reserve. This reserve is funded over time to be in place when unexpected or unforeseen issues arise. It is designed to be available to mitigate tax increases in the next fiscal year. Thank you.
Margaret Collins.
So my first thought was a 50-50 draw. However, apparently the provincial legislation provides municipalities with limited powers to generate revenue. And so that's certainly not an option. There are other things, metered parking. I know a lot of cities do have metered parking. I don't know what the feeling is up here in Elliot Lake. Increasing service fees is an option. But then that can cut out some people that don't have the funds. I know I've heard of cities that have provided an amnesty program for delinquent parking tickets, so that perhaps people will pay quicker if they can have the fines waived, and at least we'll get the minimum out of them. Those are just a couple of ideas, not necessarily what would be implemented, but just some thoughts. Thank you.
Tom Turner. Yeah, put your foot on.
Bring it up so we can see it. So when facing shortfalls, what solutions would you consider beyond raising taxes or cutting services? Well, first of all, let's remember budgets a plan was arrived at after many meetings back and forth between council and staff. The budget, when it's agreed on, serves as a direction to the staff. That's their marching orders. Each department has a budget and they follow it closely. This year, we forecast $129,000 surplus, but probably end up using it for something we didn't carry on or count on. Something will leave it, but it's very close. Credit goes to council and staff for following the plan. When things go awry, a large repair, like equipment repair or the pool, we have the reserves, the working reserves, and that's where we turn. So there's no raise in taxes and there's no cutting of services. It's not a large amount, but it's an amount that we set aside every year to cover things that we didn't expect. Thank you.
Helen the Five.
Thank you, everybody. So raising taxes is something that municipalities must do if the inflation and the cost of living cannot be absorbed with the municipal revenue and the reserves that we have. The percentage of how much to raise taxes is based on the forecasted budget for the year and how much we would need to increase those taxes in order to get a balanced budget. The process for creating a budget takes almost a year for the next fiscal year. So during that time, we have to look at ways to increase revenue to offset the costs. Simply raising taxes or cutting services is not something I would easily support. Have we looked at options to streamline our services, to work more effectively? Have we looked at other options for providing the same service at a reduced cost? There are almost always better ways of doing things. Sometimes there are tough decisions to be made, but if we've gone through all the departments and we've looked at everything, it makes it a lot easier for us to justify to you why we would need a tax increase. Thank you very much.
Norman Mann.
Thank you for the question. There are actually a couple of additional ways that you can manage this challenge. One option, again, is you can increase user fees. Again, it can be viewed as a tax, but it's not the property taxes. So again, it's an increase in the cost of specific services. You can appeal to other levels of government to provide additional funding. You can search out grant funding for projects. You can increase your residential and commercial tax base, spreading out the burden over a larger group of people, therefore decreasing it per person. You can share services with other municipalities. You can actually defer or phase in projects over a longer period of time, over several budget years, again, spreading out the burden. We pay almost $950,000 for insurance on an annual basis. If we were actually a better insurance customer, our premiums would go down, less impact on the community. Thank you.
Sandy Finnemore.
Sandy also sends her regrets as she's under the weather. Sandy states, when faced with budget shortfalls, one of the solutions is we need to look more regionally for shared services, such as some of our staff being contracted out to our neighbors for services they are lacking, and vice versa. This could create a revenue stream or save us money in the long run. Prioritize our capital projects. More active bylaw enforcement should make that department revenue neutral. Create a larger buying power, enabling us to save money with our municipal and First Nations partners. Lobby the province and the federal government for more funding and help with creating more direct lines to funding streams.
Luke Morissette.
Margaret, do you know how many Lotto Max tickets we could buy with $3 million? It's a hard question to answer when there is so many variables in play. I think taxes would have to be raised no matter what I say, because cost of living is up more than the 3.6 in taxes they charged this year. Cities are as affected as the public with higher costs. I do believe money should be put in reserve for future expenditure that will come into play in years to come. We need to increase revenues with new taxes from new development, expansion of new industrial business, waterfront property. This will also help us with a balanced budget. Thank you.
Chris Patrick.
the question is actually different than what most of these answers are. So the issue is, what do we do to make sure that we stay on budget, is be fiscally responsible as a council and hold staff to their budgets. When we do a budget, you have to remember, every budget that is done, there is over $1 million that is budgeted to go into reserve. Since 2006, I think there's been 1 year that the municipality did not put additional money into reserves because we finished the year under budget. So it's council's responsibility to make sure that staff stick to their budgets, and if they don't stick to their budgets, when they do have overruns, what's happening is less money that they have budgeted to put into their reserves does not get to go into the reserve to build that. You have to remember, every year we do bill the taxpayers for money to go into reserve. And we want to hold our staff accountable to make sure that any of that money that goes into reserve gets to stay in reserve. So we've just got to hold the line so that they can budget properly and work within their budgets. Thank you.
Geraldine Robinson. Your,
I come by it naturally.
Charlie Flintoff.
Budget shortfalls. Unfortunately, when you are over budget, some areas may have to be curtailed. As the old saying goes, money doesn't grow on trees. If the city is running a shortfall, some difficult decisions have to be had. We need to determine on which of our services are necessities versus which ones we could possibly reduce. You can never please everyone, but I will always act in the best interest of our community. Running a municipal government is much like running a business. Usually, they start with streamlining administration. As I have said before, fiscal responsibility of the taxpayers' money is a top priority. This new council needs to do exactly that. Thank you.
Tammy Van Roon. Sorry. I was just double counting them.
No, I just don't, I have no concept anymore.
I broke yours. Can you hear me? No? Yes. No. It begins, let me put my new tongue in here. It begins with curbing wasteful spending. A couple of examples are the purchase of 151 Ontario with no solid plan in place. The cost to the taxpayer includes the loss of revenue long-term along with the cost of purchase. The replacement of a 7-year-old grader at a cost of $315,000, which had a repair estimate of $82,500. We can review user fees, increase fines, reduce warnings with bylaw infractions. We can consider asking public service groups to take over some events that the city traditionally runs. Review of the cost of all service providers, benefits, insurance, contracted services, including the OPP.
Did we get help?
Yep, we got it.
Okay. Question number 2. Will you commit to or develop a strategic housing plan mapping out the city, capturing all socioeconomic groups, sustainable over a 5 to 20-year plan?
You're up, Liv. Sandy.
Sandy Finnemore's answer. Housing strategy. The answer is absolutely yes. There are many strategies already in place in the region. We need to build on those with our community and regional partners. We as a municipality do not build, but we do have a responsibility to see to the needs of our community. One of my concerns is what is referred to as the working poor. The moms and dads working minimum wage jobs that are underhoused in apartments or rental units. The first-time homebuyers. We need to access as much funding as possible through all levels of government, new housing initiatives, partner with anyone we can to bring new affordable housing to the community. In 5 years, we will have new housing in the community that is already in the works, but we need to not stop there. We need to keep developing residential lots so we can continue to attract developers. We need to continue working with Serpent River in developing projects such as joint housing opportunities. Thank you.
Charlie Flintoff.
Housing strategy. Developing a housing strategy is a time and resource intensive process. It is important that senior municipal leadership such as the mayor, the CAO, and council provide the right directive to get this done. Many departments should be involved in this. To name just a few, you have the housing department, the planning department, the department responsible for building inspections and permits, also the zoning commission. As far as I'm concerned, affordable housing is an extension of the community needs. I would commit to this, but it would have to be a complete team effort with multiple partners involved. Addressing the housing situation is a long-term strategy that requires a long-term commitment and partnership at all levels of government. There is a lot of work ahead of us, however, it can be done. Thank you.
Norman Mann.
Simple answer is yes, I would commit to a multi-year strategic housing plan. Louder, sorry. Yes, I would commit to a multi-year strategic housing plan. I would not start from scratch. However, I would align our plan based on national housing and our local Algoma District Services Administration Board housing and homeless strategy that's already in place. Currently, it's a 10-year plan. Nationally, they are trying to attempt to decrease homelessness by 50%. This plan would also build new housing stock through nonprofits and innovative partnerships. This plan should also focus on assisting those most in need, including the elderly, young adults, and persons with disabilities, as well as with mental health and addictions. Thank you.
Margaret Pollard.
I recognize that elected officials provide strategic direction and oversight with the support and work by municipal employees. I would support a strategic housing plan that would see council and staff working together to determine the best course of action. That may involve a consultant, but certainly could involve someone that has background in city planning. Thank you.
This plan currently exists within our official plan, which was adopted in 2018. It captures all socioeconomic groups with respect to its comprehensive housing plan. The Planning Act requires municipalities review and update their official plans every 5 years, or 10 years after a new plan is prepared. Although our plan is new and does not require review until 2028, it should be reviewed by council in light of the change of our economy.
Mike Thomas.
Mike Thomas's answer: I believe it is essential that we perform this exercise immediately. There is data available from the last census that shows demographic information that should be used in our short-term and long-term housing strategy. Included in this strategy, what needs to be addressed is a balanced approach to necessary housing based on the actual supply requirements for who lives here now and who it is we desire to attract. Higher-end properties, mid-range properties for young families, multi-residential properties, as well as assisted living, palliative care, and hospice environments. We need to map out and identify areas for subdivisions now to ensure proper development over the next 25 years with these factors in mind. We can and must factor those needs for growth into our budgetary practices in order to be flexible and adaptable to market demands. The bulk of future grants and funding for the foreseeable future will be in housing and healthcare for an aging population. We are in a unique position to capitalize on a growing market from both a housing strategy and a social determinant of health strategy.
I promise to only call you once this time, Geraldine Robinson.
Yes, I would agree on the strategic plan. It depends on the growth and age development and all the other reasons that candidates have already expressed.
Luke Morissette. It's passed. Gary Kirk.
It's going to take a little bit of leaning in and some effort by all kinds of different parties. But there is a need for a rework of the strategic plan, and the strategic plan, in order to get the growth that we need, must include housing. Broad spectrum, lots to talk about, but it has to happen. We have to focus on the needs of all of the community going forward and where we're going to end up. Thank you.
Helen LaFai.
Thank you. I will definitely commit to developing a strategic housing plan that addresses all of our age group requirements. Elliot Lake has a lot of land that's not in use. We need to take a good look at what it would take to open up those lots for our housing needs. Simply having a lot here and there is not going to attract our big builders that we need. And like I said a while ago, we are not the city of Toronto and Brampton. We are not maxed out. There is a lot of land in Elliot Lake. So we need to gear up and get ready so that when people do come knocking, we are in a position to negotiate. We've also got surplus land right now that should be tagged for specific housing. I've heard a lot of talk about the Roman location. Wouldn't that be a perfect location for a mid to high rise location for rentals or assisted living? We need to look at our city map, start plotting out available land, and start putting on that map what we want on that parcel of land, and aggressively start going after people to get what we want. Thank you very much.
Bruce Ibbotson.
I'm going to repeat myself, but I think the message is very important. Housing will be part of the city's revisited strategic plan. As I noted earlier, there are 3 distinct areas for strategic housing that covers all social or economic groups in our city: affordable housing, middle income housing, professional housing. I provided a plan for each area. Are the plans sustainable for up to 20 years? That's difficult to say. A lot can change over that time period, but I think it's a good starting point. Certainly viable for the next 5 years. Again, the federal government announcing the sum of the $2 billion to create 17,000 homes in Canada. The timing to move forward with our strategic plan is right now. The question is, what is affordable? And I'm hoping the 5-year rent-to-own program is the answer. But definitely a program that we should pursue for those on fixed and limited incomes. That's my thoughts.
Tom Turner.
Thank you. Will I commit to develop a strategic housing plan mapping out the city, capturing all socio and economic groups sustainable over 5 to 20 years? This is a question designed to be all things to all people. You can say yes to all of this. We have the basis of a future plan. I commit to a 5-year plan, reviewable every 2 years, make it updated then, and we'll capture the 20 years that way. We currently support social housing, affordable housing, and we create opportunities and have created opportunities for more expensive homes. We're very close to bringing about a small area with tiny homes. It's not that far in the future. We expect 2 apartment buildings to go up or start in the next year, and a 3rd one to follow. Things have been delayed mainly because of the COVID and the backup on all the cycles. We have an opportunity to create a municipal service board where we can actually spend the money to build.
Rick Bull.
I'll make this short. Yeah, the simple answer is yes, I would commit to a 5 to 20 year strategic housing plan. Affordable housing is important and necessary. We need to work together to make it doable. A strategic housing plan is required, and I would work towards that. And I know there's a lot of people, I may not be an expert on it, but there's a lot of people around that can give us a lot of help to make it worthwhile. Thank you.
Dan Marchisella.
Dan Marchisella's answer: 5 to 10 year housing strategy is a must and must include infrastructure for new housing, estate lots, waterfront, and affordable housing. Currently, we have developers in the site planning stages for new apartments, but we must identify new areas for future expansion. We must include both the private sector and the nonprofits to be able to incorporate affordable or rent geared to income housing. We currently allow for tiny homes in our official plan, so working with investors for this initiative can put Elliot Lake at the front of that niche. A new city council may wish to mortgage the build of a new affordable housing project and hand that over to nonprofit housing board for management. This is a multi-tiered plan which does need to be addressed immediately and with all pieces included.
Chris Patrick.
Thank you. It's the easiest question of the year. It's absolutely yes, but what you have to understand is we already have the official plan. The strategy is already in place. We need to come back and revisit that. Every new council, and if you give me the honor of being your mayor, one of the first things that we need to do is get our strategic plan on the table, get our official plan on the table, bring everybody up to speed and get to work. The stuff is here, people. We have the lots, we have the plans, we have everything in place. We don't need to do a new one. We need to sit at the table, get to work, get staff to work, and start doing what we're supposed to do as your elected officials. That's what I will commit to if you give me the honor of being elected on October 24th. Thank you very much.
All right. Tonight we have yet another bonus surprise question. This is called the C.A.U.S.E Roundtable Quickfire. Candidates will have 1 minute to answer the following question on the fly. The candidates have not been prepared ahead of time with this question. And your question is, what is the first item you will bring to your fellow council members for consideration and initiation before the end of 2023?
Gary Kirk.
Is that 2023 or 2022?
2023.
Okay, easy enough. Housing. City council needs to get the obstacles out of the way. We can buy these tiny homes as kits. We can put them on a pad and we can make it happen. But we have to get council on side to get the zoning to allow for these multi-residential tiny homes to be put in place. Straight and simple, that's the first thing I want to see happen because it can happen fairly quickly. Council needs to get out of the way and enable. Draw the players in, make it happen. Thank you.
Norman Mann.
Thank you for the question. Very easy for me. Declare 151 surplus. We should have never purchased the mall property in the first place. We need to sell it immediately. Thank you.
tough decision to decide what gets done in 2023, somewhere between, do we replace that art center? And if we can't get grants, do we do it on our own? We need the consensus of council and at the same time need consensus from population. So I would ask my fellow councillors if we can't come to an agreement on replacing that and our recreation complexes, do we go to the population and have a referendum on it? Can answer once and for all and put it away. That's what I'd like to see. Thanks.
Rick Bull.
I think the first thing I would want to do is make sure we have a plan to get our road works and everything up to date. Without anything like that, roads or services, suffering like that, we have to have a plan to get that started. Thank you.
That's correct, right? If they're not here.
They're not here
Yes,
then.
gotcha. Margaret Pollard.
I have to agree that the mall property should be declared surplus immediately. Thank you.
Bruce Ibbotson.
The first thing to do is have a maintenance program, so we don't have another roof cave in. Let's measure the snow depth, calculate the weight of the snow and ice on the roof, so we avoid future catastrophes.
Chris Patrick.
Thank you. For me, it's an easy question. I said it in my speech at Collins Hall. The first thing that we need to do is get our council to sit together, make the agreement to go and lobby the government and make them our partner. We have to mend our fences. We have to rebuild our relationships. We have done a terrible job working with the provincial and federal governments. That's why we're not getting grants. We need to go back and start to work with the administration and the politicians of both of those governments. And I would put that on the table well before the end of 2023. I would prefer to do it before the end of 2022. Thank you.
Ruth Morissette.
So many things that I would like to have done by 2023. One would have been the art center, but I'm looking at everything and it's like a domino effect. We need to start somewhere and everything will fall into place, and we hope, and have a nice beautiful town in the end. So we need to start with a plan and have a council that will work together and get that plan working. Thank you.
Geraldine Robinson.
The first thing I would address would be infrastructure, roads and buildings, and get them up to speed. Thank you.
Helen LaFave.
Thank you, everybody. First thing I would do if we saw last night's council meeting is when we get the reports on the aging buildings that we have, if we have the right information, we can make a decision. So the decision last night was to fix the building and have it ready for the next 20 years. So can we not do the same thing with our arena and any other building that should have had reports done in the past so that we can ensure that our buildings are no longer falling apart? That would be my main thing. Thank you.
Tammy Van Roon.
Norman Mark stole mine, so I'll go with number 2. For me, one of the motivations for running was the fact that I have seen so many displaced tenants as a result of the number of landlords selling. It has broken my heart that in some cases They have to move in with family. They just can't afford to live in Elliot Lake anymore. So one of my top priorities is to aggressively work with ADSAP and the province to increase the number of subsidized units that we have available in Elliot Lake. Thank you.
Charlie Flintoff.
Well, first I'd have to be elected, you know. No, I would say 20 years ago I saw a book this thick on the hub theory and how much money that was spent. So 20 years of that going on, I really want to get something figured out. I was playing in the hockey arena last year at night and a pipe burst, and if we didn't have a retired plumber playing hockey with us, that arena would have been shut down for the rest of the winter. So we have to make some decisions, either hub or this. Let's get something figured out. Thanks.
If we could give one more round of applause for tonight's candidates. It's been a pleasure having all of you here along with our fabulous attendees in the audience. The more interaction and involvement we can all have as citizens and supporters of our elected council, the more cohesive and transparent voice of the city will ring true. We deserve a bright and prosperous future, as we all have a vested interest. We are all here for the same reason. We love our city, and we want to ensure it will remain the home we all cherish so dearly. Thank you to Alice and Dayton here at Grace Christian Center for all of their help. Without you two, I would not have been able to do this, so thank you. Thank you to Susan Anderson, who's been here all 3 nights as our lovely timekeeper. Thank you to Brent, who is here to represent ElliotLakeToday.com, so we can have coverage of the event. Thank you to my boss, who stepped in last time when our house was full of COVID, and boy, thank you. Thank you to Leona Matisse, who is watching us right now, I hope, and she's been in the background with me, helping to moderate and maintain the Facebook page. Thank you to our helpers tonight filming for both YouTube, our live event, and thank you finally to my amazing husband, who has allowed our house to turn into Election Central Circus and still being here each time with me. So thank you very much, everyone. Have a safe and happy evening. Please take your water bottles with you and your masks, and I'll see you all October 20th.